just wanted to point out that the addenda at the end are not part of the policy. You would only be voting on the policy itself.
Not the agreement.
Not the
That's
agreement,
part of
not the forms. Those would have to be tailored to us based on how we're using them, and those would change from time to time.
Discussion, Paul?
Yeah, again, this, I was at the policy committee for one here, meeting, when this was discussed. This again is to, so that we are in agreement with the state's policy, correct?
Correct.
This is their version of, and I'll say what I said to that person, I think this is too cumbersome to be realistically, to be realistically implemented. I think it's well-intentioned, I understand everything, the reasons for doing this, and I think it is extremely comprehensive, but I think as a working, as a working policy, it simply isn't working, and the proof is in the pudding. I think only 2 of our 7 principals were actually, following through on this on a regular basis, And it's because the stakes are so high, and because the state is governing that it's specifically suspension and expulsion. They are so protected by the state, and they are so technically, legally constrained. I would like to see the board basically just go forward and approve this as a general policy, but I would also like to see the board then have a specific bullying policy. Bullying is still a thing that is very much on my mind, and I would like to see the board develop a specific policy that uses that uses our own, we have our own means of enforcement, which have to do with denying students privileges, quite frankly, whether it's involvement in sports, involvement in other activities, to discourage that behavior, which is, again, less cumbersome to implement and has far less state oversight. Basically, I would love to see us put in place a policy that is largely local control, which just allows us to really impactfully dissuade bullying within our schools. This does not do it, and never will do it.
We do have a bullying policy that will be coming.
That will address.
Specifically.
Terrific, okay. Then on that basis, I say we just approve this rubber stamp. In my opinion, I'll shut up after this, but I just think trying to tweak this is just impossible. It's never going to work. I say we rubber stamp it, meets what the state wants, we're in agreement with it, and then we just put it in the proverbial long-term state mandate folder where it will aid principals.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's move to.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to amend the action items to add a 5G approval of TPSAA concession proposal.
5, it'll actually be I. There's more on the next page.
Sorry.
That's 6 though. Yeah, that's not right. It's not lettered right.
Oh, right, it's not 6,
Oh,
Oh,
so it's I.
No,
it'll be
5G.
5I.
It's 5G. 6 should be A.
no, there shouldn't be a 6 there.
No, shouldn't be a
Shouldn't be a
6
The
there.
consent agenda is part of the
Consent
action
agenda
item.
is G,
The
right.
6 is just in it.
Right, comments for the good of the order should be 6, committee reports.
All right, so I approval of TPSAA concession. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of amending the agenda to add the TPSAA concession?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Financial statements. Chris, do you know?
Make a motion to approve the April budget.
Second.
We have a motion by Chris, second by Leona. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Approval of revised 2013-14 budget. Did everybody get a sheet?
No.
No? Okay. are listed: one classroom teacher at 50,000, one secretary at 37, custodian at 50, a para at 20, a nurse at 50, a cafeteria worker at 12,636. We are also proposing a reduction of instrumental music by 75, the reconfiguring of the tag program of 75, elimination of the ESL tutor at Southwest, the reduction of 3 12-month secretaries back to FRPs for 28,287. The administration, the TPSAA concession of 19,147, and a reduction in technology district-wide of 56,432 for a total of 488,507. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Daniel, second by
Second.
Ellen. Discussion.
I'd like to make one modification, and this is basically following up on what John began at the beginning of this meeting, is I'm also frustrated with calling eliminating the TAC program reconfiguring. I don't think we should be trying to soft sell what we're doing, because of this budget cut demanded by the city. We're losing the TAC program. I think we should be calling it for all intents and purposes what it is. We're eliminating the TAC program, our own homegrown visionary reform program. We are basically eliminating, let's not call it reconfiguring it. So I'd like to see it projected as that.
Well, do we have consensus to change the motion of approving this, to change that wording?
I don't want to change it to eliminate, because I would hope that if we can find some way to continue to service our tag kids, that we will.
But it's not tag, and I think if you eliminate it, I think it'll get in people's heads in this town a little more clearly what it is that's actually happening here. Is that we are taking this one tiny program that services high-achieving kids, and we're gutting it. That's what we're doing. We're not ignoring it, we're gutting it, and let's just say what it is.
And yet you had no alternative ways of getting $75,000 out of this budget anywhere else. What was your solution? You said all your priorities, this is what the board said all their priorities were, and there was no other priorities as far as administrators, teachers.
What I'm
This
hoping-
is what you wanted,
Well-
this is what the board wanted.
What I'm hoping is that, the administration will find a way during the year to find, what do you call it, efficiencies, to be able to support this program. But as of this day, as of, May 15th, we are cutting this money that's specifically earmarked for this TAC program. And by so doing, we are eliminating it for all intents and purposes, really what we're doing.
Do you want to see eliminate or reconfigure?
I like reconfigure. I don't intend to eliminate it.
Reconfigure.
Paul, you're eliminating the program, so.
I agree, you're eliminating the program. You gotta call it this.
Call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Thank you.
Eliminate.
Take your time, Mr.
I
Chair.
really don't care which word is used.
Call it Tom.
What's that?
Call it Tom.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend.
I have a quarter.
I personally would leave it as reconfigured, because I hope that it gets reconfigured. I hope it's not eliminated. I'd like to see it back. What?
And that doesn't mean it can't be better and different. It's just not what you have seen done. That's what we have administered.
Dan, do you have any discussion on for this? Can we do the discussion?
Yeah, I just want to know, are we, on the insurance reduction, the board, so long as this is part of what we're reducing, but the board itself didn't, in their original approval of the budget, did not make that insurance reduction amount. So I think that that needs to be part of our vote tonight, that we're also approving
Well, yeah,
$557.
we're approving everything on the sheet. We're approving the capital budget, the superintendent's proposed capital budget, we're approving what the Board of Finance gave us. We're actually approving a budget of $69,228,775. Because that'll be our final number. Operating budget of $67,763,369, and a capital budget of $1,465,406. The insurance reduction was made by the city and the Board of Finance at the Board of Finance meeting. Because the entire district, or the entire city got a lower rate. So, yes, we will be approving that. John, do you have anything? Any further discussion?
I'm just going to quickly reiterate my early sentiments. Programs whose time has come, I think that we could have had that discussion. I said that I wouldn't have voted to go beyond 10 o'clock tonight, but I certainly would have. I would have entertained a special meeting. At school improvement, that could be a year-long thing. It could be a continual thing, that you are continually looking, and you may find multiple programs. But I think maybe if we had a discussion of low-hanging fruit, that would have been beneficial to this process. I think when we keep putting more and more things that we hope that the administration finds some way to fund, where is this money? I mean, we discussed that with the CNA, now we're discussing that with TAG. I mean, it makes it, the perception is that there's a lot of money somewhere that you can just sort of find and fund it somehow. I don't know how we can do that. It's just sort of an imaginary thing. And I just would have liked to have had that discussion.
Chris?
Or decision to reconfigure or eliminate the tag program. I'll ultimately vote for it because we need to come up with a budget, and that's what we're elected to do. But horrible, horrible, horrible idea, and we continue to cater to the wrong student population. This is-
Ellen? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Kisco and Marola are opposed. Okay. Contract approval for capital project Southwest School. Do I have a motion to approve the capital project?
So moved.
By Chris, second by Ellen. Discussion, we have Mr. Becerra here to answer any questions.
Quickly throw this out, this is really a technicality that is allowing, the board is allowing the superintendent to sign the contract for general building for the Southwest capital project. That was approved last year.
Make a motion to approve.
Chris, Ellen, second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, unanimous. Thank you. Great presentation. Approval of policy 6192
So move it.
by Ellen, second by Mr. Marola. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, unanimous. Approval of application for $50,000 grant for adult education improvement project.
So moved.
Ellen, second. Chris, discussion. Yes.
That grant, how much is the entire program cost?
We're requesting $50,000.
And that, if we get the grant, that covers the entire program.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, unanimous. Approval of distinguished alumni award recipients. We have a letter that's disappeared into the staff table in front of me. We have a motion to approve the recipients of the distinguished alumni award. Second. By Dan. Discussion.
The only thing is this came through school improvement. So Duanico did all the heavy lifting on this, interviewing people, taking, not interviewing, but taking recommendations and evaluating and coming up with a list of people that rose to the level of receiving this award. And this is the first year, I'd like to say, that we've actually had two, to the best of my knowledge, the first year we've had actually two recipients. And discussion was back and forth repeatedly, that we would like to be, at least at this point, through this school improvement committee, it is our opinion that we will only award this, when it is justified, as opposed to in the past where sometimes we were making this call just to fulfill the award. And these two people, what I like about it, they're both obviously Torrington residents, educated here. And one is Mr. Slavy, Sam Slavy, graduated from Torrington High School in 1964. He's being awarded this alumni recognition based on his work within Torrington, and many services that he has done and provided for the people of this town, for the children of this town. And the other recipient is Linnea Avalone, who graduated from Torrington High School in 1984, with an absolutely extraordinary success through her educational background, and then taking that to work for NASA. I mean, this is a kid who grew up in Torrington, you know what I'm saying? It's an absolutely stellar set of achievements here. And I'm really thankful to Mr. Monaco for finding these two candidates and bringing them before the school improvement committee, and hopefully the board will agree that these people certainly deserve this distinguished award.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, consent agenda. Motion to accept the consent agenda. Moved by Chris, second by Ellen. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Field trips, 2013, 2014, list of field trips.
Remain all.
Okay.
You go to the Metropolitan Museum this year?
Am I?
Are we taking anybody to the Metropolitan Museum? No? No?
There is a
Yes.
request included in there, yes, there is.
We have a motion to accept the field trip.
En masse.
It is, yes.
I mean, we specifically asked last year that the cost, and I remember sending back field trip requests specifically to elementary schools and telling them, you need to know how much it's going to cost us as a district. That was like one of the number one things that was important for us to examine. And there's a lot of to be determined on here. TBD. I don't know if it bothers anyone else, but
Well, before we get into a discussion, we have to have a motion.
I'll move then to approve.
Okay. Moved by Chris, second. Sure. Sure. Andrew. Discussion. Chris, do you have a discussion on this?
I think any of them that don't specifically know how many subs they need shouldn't be approved.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely.
For example, on the Washington DC trip, the larger number of parent volunteers that would come, the fewer number of certified staff that need to fill in to provide adequate level of coverage for students on the trip. So in some cases, if you can get volunteers to come, you don't have to have teachers go, then it reduces the cost to the district.
I got you there, but I think we should treat every person who comes and presents a field trip the same. I just do. And you sent it back the last time, I don't understand.
That's the only one where there's a cost to the district that's a TBD. All of the other TBDs are under
West
cost
Point.
per pupil.
West Point could be.
The West Point trip is a replacement trip for students who are not participating in the Washington DC trip because the site that they were to attend was damaged by Storm Sandy. So those are the TBD, and that one is how many students are staying behind and how many are available to go on that replacement trip, which is simultaneous with the Washington DC trip.
I find it a hard sell that everyone else can figure it out, but they can't figure
agree with Chris. I agree with Chris. I mean, we wasted, not wasted, but we spent an enormous amount of board time stipulating the conditions for getting this approved, so we wouldn't have to keep revisiting these things. And yet we keep getting these, you know, these variables here, and it just shouldn't be, and I agree with you. That's all I'm saying.
Question, June 2014, Sturbridge Village, Vogel Wetmore, grade 4. There's no cost to anybody
It's,
and no sub?
the teacher accompanies her class, so it's not necessary to provide a sub for coverage since she's with her students as if she were with her students all day in the school, so it's no additional cost.
But who's paying for Sturbridge and the bus?
This, I can pull out the form, but I'm pretty sure it's the Student Activity Fund. MPTF.
And why is grade 5 at East cost $50 per student?
Because they're not utilizing that money, the parents are being asked to pay, this person is not here anymore.
Why is it we don't know how many students are gonna be going on the trip?
As this is next year's class, we don't have class lists yet.
But
But
we know
these
how many
did.
number of students are going on the other trips for the other grades.
It's in,
So do
they're just
they,
carrying forward what they have this year.
okay, so they're guessing at their number, and they just didn't guess on this sheet.
All of the class lists for trips that are occurring a year in the future are estimates, they're not exact lists, although we have asked teachers to provide fairly accurate guesstimates so that we wouldn't just say to be determined.
I have another question on the Gaylord Opryland Resort Music Festival. One student is going, but it says 2 subs for 3 days.
Pull out the justification on that one. That involves, the vocal teacher from the high school, who's gonna be missing her class.
But is there really one student going?
That's what I'm trying to answer for you, just hang on for a second. Students, number of students, 1 depending on selection into the festival. And the chaperones are listed as the vocal teacher and the instrumental teacher. Student pays. So I mean, that's a trip that we're asking you to approve, just as we did with the Thanksgiving Day Philadelphia parade trip that no one may go. But if there's an opportunity to go, you're granting them permission to go. If nobody makes it, then nobody goes.
So 2 teachers are accompanying 1 student?
That's what the request specifies.
I just don't know why we can't have 1 go. Why we need 2?
Maybe none going, it may be more than 1 going, maybe 1 going, depends on whether they're selected or not.
I think it's hard to justify $600 for 1 student to go and us to get 2 subs to cover 1 student going who cannot go.
Any other discussion? All
Do
those in
we have to vote on approve all or just, or not approve all? I mean, again, I agree with Fiona. I mean,
I mean, the motion right now is to approve all the field trips. We can deny it and then break it down into a different motion, and we can go down them individually, or you can amend your motion to go
I'll
individually.
amend my motion to approve all besides the one Fiona mentioned and the 2 that I mentioned. So anyone where they don't make an estimate as to the subs and cost to the district, and the one where it's 2 teachers for 1 student.
Okay, so you mentioned the West Point trip, which is the replacement trip for the 8th grade this year, and next year's Washington trip, you don't want to approve either, since that has a TBD.
Not without the information. I mean, it's just difficult as it to fill out the form.
And the trip for,
come June.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we can push the whole list out till June, because none of these trips happen until next year. We can just say, fix it and bring it back, or we can approve a portion of them and have the replacements come back.
Now, Mr. Sharp, the West Point Military Academy trip is this year. It's being in place of a trip to New York that those students would have taken, but they're not able to attend because of storm damage to the site that they originally planned to go to. So that one,
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
why don't we combine the two ideas? Basically, we can vote on the motion that Chris has proposed, that we approve all except for those three, and then allow for the three that were not approved to come back to the next meeting.
Oh,
One won't.
one won't,
One
because the
won't,
trip
it'll
is Monday.
expire.
Oh,
Pass,
The trip leaves Monday?
yeah.
which is another reason that it's.
This is the
Yeah.
alternate trip for eighth graders not going to Washington DC. Departing at 8:30, arriving back at 4:30. $28 per person. I have a cost breakdown.
May I ask a question?
sure.
When was it known that this emergency trip to West Point was gonna be needed?
Several months ago, but
And we're
we had,
just seeing it before the board now?
well, I've asked to have it included in the agenda, but the budget took the precedent. I have emails dated back as far as March on this.
And the board's requested to only review field trips once a year.
Well, the one time it got knocked off was because I've been relatively difficult to administration, that if I don't have the supporting information in time to set the agenda, it goes off the agenda. So the one time it was requested, I didn't have the backup, so it got booted off. And then budget consumed the rest of our time, and now we have it in front of us.
So there was plenty of time to figure out the numbers to have it not be. So they have plenty of
I'm
time.
sure they know exactly who's leaving on Monday, and I'm sure they know how many subs they're ordering for Monday. Would that be a safe
Yeah, I mean,
estimate?
I agree with Chris. I mean, we were extremely explicit about this a year ago. Couldn't have been more explicit.
Let's ask the
It
interesting
just
question.
doesn't come before the
Can
board
this-
as a TBD.
Can this trip be canceled at this point?
Yes, if we say no. Well,
I have a confirmation from West Point Tours Incorporated and the charter number. Mr. Lafreniere at the middle school is the contact person for this.
I'm not in support of making 50 kids suffer
Right.
3 days before because of
It's
something
too
that's
but-
submitted
Yeah,
directly.
I got an email today from from Jason Lafreniere, that he is he's taking a class tonight, and that he would be available by telephone if there were any questions. Would you like me to call his cell phone and get a number for you?
No, that's not the way we do work. No, we determine, the Board of Education determines how information is presented to us. This is not, it's not a local mom and pop deli where you come in and just make up your rules as you go along. That's what we're trying not to be. We were very clear on this.
Let-
Okay, I
Let's
agree.
just go down the list.
They did
Who
their
is,
job and they
somebody's
got
gotta be
it done.
accountable. I'd like to have that, somebody needs to be accountable
Storm Sandy.
for this. Excuse me?
Storm Sandy.
Because you
That's
did,
nonsense.
They put in their original request to
Right,
go
which
to New
was-
York. That's what
Right.
they were supposed to be doing.
which was approved by the board this time last year for the alternate.
And then in the winter, it was determined that they couldn't go there.
So
So they
this
found
is
this
in place
alternative
of-
in place of the New York,
Okay.
but we couldn't get it on our
There was
agenda
to
because
go
of.
to Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island.
I get all that, but this is not how you maintain order and efficiency in a school system. It's just not how you do it in any system.
Let's,
They
Will you
submitted
late-
though
will
when
you-
they
will you
found
make them-
out, because we were working on budget.
Our working on budget has nothing to do with them, filling out this information. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Information that we specifically required and requested last year.
I would assume when he submitted this, he knew how many kids were going.
Not necessarily, because I think it's the default for the kids that don't end up going to DC.
But last year, they knew. If they're going to New York, it would be approximately the same number.
Well, no, how many were going to DC? Was it 50?
No, 172 are going to DC.
All right, so this number is actual, or is this not even an
This
actual
isn't
number?
DC, this
filling out the
Right.
form, the point that Chris and Paul, and I think Vincent are trying to make is, when you fill out the form knowing that you're saying 50 students are going, that should give you an inclination of how many subs you should be able to just, even if you fill it, you know, you should be able to estimate, we're gonna need 2 subs, we're gonna need 1 sub, we're gonna need, just finish the form.
If you need fewer, you're saving us money, we're not gonna get angry at that, but it's to have some idea of how much it could cost the district.
Which, the idea for that proposal was it forces the people making these proposals to do a little bit of hard thinking about that question. What is this actually gonna cost in terms of resources? You know, that's what we're trying to get them to
Do
do.
we wanna go down this list one by one and just yes or no them, or?
No.
Do you wanna do this year's and then next year's?
This year's being this one West Point.
There's only one for this year.
Yeah. Okay, I think that,
So I'll withdraw my motion to do what you said. I'm done.
Can we get a motion to approve the West Point trip for the 12-13 school year? Fiona,
I'll second it.
second by, we're gonna give it to Paul. He's been quiet too.
Yeah. Go positive.
Any discussion on that trip, further discussion?
I will say one thing, I will support this on the condition, on the understanding that anybody, this happens again next year, and it's an automatic denial for me. Anybody come forward with TBDs filled in,
Okay.
I will vote it down automatically.
Any other discussion?
I have a, who do these, applications go to?
They come to my office.
So, now that you've heard our discussion, do you want to somehow have at school improvement, some type of discussion, so as to answer?
We have
No.
revised and revised and revised these field trip forms to get more and more specific information about costs, participation,
And the vast majority of
itinerary,
staff is doing
curricular
that.
connection. We're now up to very elaborate packets for each trip. I don't think that we really need to make any additional changes. This, I think Fiona summarized it very accurately, that this is a substitute trip for a trip that had already been approved last year that had to be changed because of weather conditions. And I have in front of me very conscientious information that was done to make the arrangements for the trip, to determine the cost for students, to do the confirmation for the tour and the bus. All this was done by the trip sponsor in February and March, and it didn't have an opportunity to come to before the board earlier than that, so.
And my suggestion is that being that we have several local board members, maybe you can put that on school improvement, for those board members to come and hash it out with the assistant superintendent to make sure that your priorities, board priorities, are going to be implemented, that's all.
Okay, Vincent?
Should we look at these maybe twice a year, or, I mean, is it counterintuitive to do it once because we don't have a good handle on what's gonna happen a year from now? Is that sort of the problem, do you think?
Board policy requires that all of the trips be bundled and presented in spring of the year prior to the trip. It is very problematic.
Well, that's what I'm saying, would it be better if we did it twice a year or quarterly? I mean, is it, just to have a better handle on it.
Or change the policy.
Right, that's what I'm saying, to change the policy, right.
Okay, so,
But being a substitute trip, they have all the information in all these boxes filled out for the original trip. It shouldn't have been that difficult for that sponsor to transfer that data to the new form. I mean, really, all you changed was the location. I mean, everything else theoretically should be the same. I would assume approximately the same number of kids would be going. You're still going to New York. The cost might have changed something. Anyway, all those in favor of approving the 20? Opposed? One opposed. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to approve the 2013-2014 field trips?
I'll make a motion.
Fiona?
No, I want to make the motion though with the exception of the two teachers and one student to.
Gaylord, Appalachia.
All right, on the third page.
But what about the ones that are still DVD?
That's the Washington DC trip.
I
second to,
No, I'm gonna remove my second, just because, I mean, that could end up being, who knows, 50 students, and then now we're gonna deny that. That's why I think if we did it maybe twice a year, or however we do it, it just seems like we'd have a better handle. I mean, it says one, there's no way I would support one student with 2 subs. It makes no sense at all. But that number could really be a much higher number to benefit more students, so I think that our policy isn't gonna,
unfortunately, not really.
that's not
You have
possible.
to qualify for it. It's a musical competition.
So when's the deadline?
Well, they compete all year, and they'll know halfway through the year if they're gonna make it.
Right, so if we voted on this again, halfway through the year, we can learn.
All right, do we have a second to Fiona's motion?
I'll second Peter's motion.
Discussion?
Can we have one more meeting in June before this year closes, can we?
Well, it could be brought back in June.
Yeah. This way, whatever the board members' concerns are, voice them and let the administration bring it all, vote on it as one package in June. It's not gonna hurt anything to do it in June.
Do you want to make a motion?
To look at them all in June, or just?
Just table it.
He wants to push it out to June.
No.
The whole packet or just because?
I believe you were saying the whole package, correct?
Yeah.
He's saying
Get
the whole package.
everybody's concerns answered.
That's not gonna change the ambiguity around the number of chaperones needed for the Washington DC trip between this month and next month. And I think the only one that you're,
that's being questioned right now is
is the
Nashville
Opryland
trip.
one.
Yeah.
And that will be a total.
Right, we won't know any more information about how many students will be selected to go for that one either.
Do you want to keep your motion?
I want to keep my motion. I won't support 2 subs for 1 student to read it, to go on the trip. I would support if the policy was changed, that they could bring this back forward, possibly with less subs for 1 student. If Ellen changes the policy change.
Yeah.
Does our policy accept special, it accepts special instances, doesn't it, or no?
Yes.
All right, so then that solves that problem right there, right? I don't, yeah, I
There
don't
can
wanna,
be an extenuating circumstance.
well, that would be an extenuating circumstance. We don't know how many students we have.
Well, can I ask about that specifically, this is because it's an award, it's a competition?
It's a
some sort of music,
competition.
Yes.
Singing, whatever.
It's a music, yeah, it's a singing competition.
Through this, it's sponsored through the schools though? It's a school-based competition or an individual-based competition?
Individual, but all schools.
They go to
Like a music festival.
festivals, and you compete, and if you win at this festival, you're eligible to compete at that festival. If you win
But
at that
it's sponsored by the
festival.
schools? I mean, my concern is if I had, a child who was doing this music, it's like playing soccer, I mean, you, the parent, take responsibility. If your kid's winning these things, you take them out of school for 3 days, and it's you and your child.
Well,
Why is the
believe-
school involved in this? I guess that's my question.
It's the NAFME National Music Festival.
I
Right.
don't know what that is, but I mean,
A music
Do you understand what I'm saying?
educator. It's a music educator.
oh, all right, all right.
And typically, the
Festival.
teacher has to be a member of that organization, that
All right, this is what I'm
students
asking.
have the
Okay,
right to
okay.
participate.
The student pays the admission for all of these festivals. The students pay their own admissions fee to compete in the
Yeah,
festival.
it wasn't in the class, okay, I understand, I would just,
The teacher needs to
What-
go, but why do
so there is a
two
school
teachers
connection, that's all I was
need to
asking,
go?
okay.
It may have been there depending on who it's a female choir coach, but maybe, and what if it was a boy selected to go, or if it was a girl and it was an instrumental, we have the opposite, you could have the opposite gender.
Determine who it is and pick one.
Yeah.
To accompany them. I mean, we can't
Right.
justify.
No, I'm saying that's
teachers
probably
being
why
gone
they
for
put
3
two,
days.
because I
No,
don't
that's right.
believe a male teacher is gonna escort a female teacher.
No, we
And-
wouldn't want
Well,
that.
right, but
Yeah.
still, why do we need
Or-
2? I mean,
The one teacher could be the opposite sex, and that's the teacher.
And
who got
that's-
accepted.
That's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
coach,
so it could
and
be
that's
2
your.
kids,
One kid, 2 teachers.
one female, 1 male, and you would need 2 teachers.
Well, that would be.
Well,
a
theoretically, it should
situation
be a
too.
teacher, it should be a teacher and a parent, and you know what, I mean, you have to look at this, teachers, what do we estimate, teachers, 120 kids per day? I mean, that's what a teacher's in front of approximately 120 kids. So if you're taking 2 subs for 3 days, that's 6 teaching days, it's a whole lot of kids who are being denied teachers
For one person.
for one person. And that really is excessive, and there's gotta be a better way of allowing this to happen, but not at that cost.
Policy. Any exceptions to the spring approval deadline for overnight and out-of-country trips, which are anticipated to be rare, will require approval by the Board of Education, so you can do it anytime.
All right.
And remember, we had a discussion about students are invited to the Cherry Blossom Parade to play. It's a special opportunity. The board could then bypass the spring deadline for these and do a separate vote at any time. So there is a provision in there that allows this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the field trips minus the Opryland Nashville Music Festival? All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Mr. Rivera. Okay, action item I, approval of the TPSA concession offer. Can I get a motion? Vincent? I'll take Fiona as a second. Discussion?
It would be nice to see the other bargaining groups.
I would say in that same context, that we don't chase them with extra money if we ever have a surplus. I don't think it should surprise us that working people who don't get paid very much to begin with found it difficult to give concessions.
All those in favor of accepting this concession? Opposed? Unanimous. Comments for the good of the order? Paul?
I'm just wondering, when are we gonna see the recommendation from our athletic director of that? revision?
Probably not till summer sometime.
We are hoping for
They
a
were
rough,
meeting tonight.
yeah, they had said they could give us an update next month. We were gonna squeeze them in this month,
Yeah.
didn't know how long the budget was gonna take, didn't wanna have them, you know, I just figured we could do that in June, they'd give us the update and then the final product over the summer.
Just keep it on the radar.
Yep.
It's not
Oh,
lost.
no,
It
it's-
wasn't on the agenda until we got cut.
They
The
have a
further,
meeting.
the further out we go with this, I think the board has the right for that to be a fully articulated.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
They're planning on it.
behavior. Okay.
Dan?
It's just a busy time in sports right now.
Andrew?
I just think that after this budget process has gone through, as we see every year, we as a board seem to have a problem with gaining information, insight into a wide variety of activities, courses, functions that the school district goes through. It's been said repeatedly, at least to me, that we're always crossing into that line of improperly evaluating administrators, superintendent, teachers, when we try to probe into how successful classrooms, activities are going, student behavior is going. I think that when you see the budget process evolve, those are the types of decisions that we're actually trying to make. What actually works for the district, what doesn't work, where strengths are. And the only way you really understand what's appropriate as far as appropriation of money for different courses, programs, activities, is for the board to be constantly gaining data, gaining information to evaluate these things, not to blame fault on any individual, but just so as to be more enlightened as we go forward. Because it's not gonna get any better for the near future. Revenue is not going to increase drastically at the state level or at the local level. So I just think we need to have more input as a board, month to month, of what's transpiring, and give more input to the administration that these things seem to be working from our perspective, aren't working, and just way we have a year. And I say this every year, this budget process for next year should be starting like today. So I'll just keep saying that. Hopefully we improve upon what we did this year.
Fiona?
Just a couple things. This National Youth Service Day, there's a lot of kids missing from this list, so I'm not sure where this list came from, but at the awards that they had for this last week, the people from the Elks and the committee were saying that there was over 300 kids from Torrington Public Schools that were nominated for their excessive amount of community service. And I think that's something that should be recognized. It isn't the small number, there's a much larger number of kids.
This is what I received, and we took the names from the sheets and just made the list. So this is what I received.
Yeah, so I can give you guys the pamphlet, but I just think it's
Yeah.
important because we're always recognizing the bad things our kids are doing in the schools, and I think it's excellent that we have that many kids giving that many hours of community service, doing incredible things in our town. The next is just regarding the field trips. I would prefer that we look at a policy change. I don't want to get into the business of picking and choosing who we bring forward to the board to approve or not approve. So maybe it's a more frequent review of the field trips, but I don't want us being the deciding factor on who gets consideration and who doesn't. And lastly, going along with the athletic, I'm not sure if everyone got the sample athletic handbook that Mr. Gottlieb sent over. But I thought that was excellent, and I think it covered a lot of the things you've been talking about, Paul. So hopefully we can take a deeper look at that handbook.
And he shared that with the committee.
Yeah, I think he sent it to
I think we sent that
everyone.
everybody.
Yeah, it was all extracurricular.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't
really
just,
good.
you know,
It wasn't just that, it was all.
That's all I have.
I agree with Andrew that we should be starting earlier, and so on subcommittee level, we'll be doing that. That being said, I think that if everyone wants to have input in that, then please come to the meetings or email me or Danielle or Cheryl or anyone else what your concerns are, what questions you'd like answered. I feel all these questions pop up in the last 2 months, and some of the information I know is very difficult to obtain in a timely fashion, and some of it is a moving target, and we see that month to month in budget committee, so I think I would invite everyone who has concerns with that to attend the meetings monthly. I also would like to see specifically in writing and presented to the board what the reconfiguration of the tag program will be ahead of time. And so we can track if funds are available, of how that will be ramped up to bring it as close to how it was this year, if not better. But I'd like to really see what the reconfiguration looks like.
I'm good, thanks.
John?
Comment on that list that we got of the kids who were recognized for their service. Sometimes we think that the changing demographics in Torrington is in some ways a negative thing. Well, it's also a very positive thing, judging from the names on that list. There are some traditional, quote, Torrington names, unquote, an awful lot of names that recognize the new groups that have moved into town. Very positive. And high school, NHS induction tomorrow night, scholarships and awards presentations the Thursdays, I think, after that. So, say that, because our kids weren't here to say it.
We also have,
3 minutes before 10.
can we get a motion to extend the meeting?
Motion to extend to 10:10.
10:10? Okay. 10:10, and all those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Wow.
That was close.
You've got a
Four votes before this.
I know, I lied.
Everybody
I did
backed
too.
out.
I'm sorry. That's what it is.
Okay.
10:10 is close to 10.
civic life projects are being recognized at the Capitol, State Capitol building tomorrow. We have the National Honor Society induction tomorrow. We have the TEA retirement dinner tomorrow night, and then we have the awards the following Thursday. And some scholarships. Okay, committee reports, personnel.
We are currently reviewing the proposed reorganization for management and custodial staff. We have asked for an update on that for the June meeting to see how to best efficiently make that work. We received our reports on staffing with only one hiccup showing up. Things are looking very good.
Policy.
We're gonna look at graduation online again, wellness, electronics use, bullying, field trips. Next month, and then we'll go from there.
Grievance.
We'll be busy in the next couple of weeks.
Spoke too soon.
School improvement.
We decided to let policy do all our work for us.
Budget.
Not a whole lot, we're continuing to look into the school lunch issue with the money. That's, other than the big budget, that's a small thing, but we're looking at it. I'm happy to report that our school faculty and administration has done an excellent job on their end of trying to track down the money. So it's not for lack of us trying as a school district.
THS man.
With the school improvement committee turning all of its heavy work over to the policy committee, they had time for a very interesting discussion about the high school curriculum, which I was part of and enjoyed thoroughly, so that was, and it's more to think about. Also been talking to a couple of people, but nothing specific. So don't look behind the curtain.
Ed Connection. Sorry, I skipped over your other one.
Usual meetings, but nothing exceptional.
Okay, wellness.
Wellness is in the hands of policy, and I think we're at 14th read, 15th reading policy?
I think I got it at 6.
Juvenile court matters.
I will finalize something for next meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in writing, right?
Yes, that-
Items for upcoming.
I don't know what
agenda.
it'll be, but it'll be fine.
Items for upcoming agenda, finalization of the juvenile court update for committee. Sports handbook, Forbes School Solar Project, school projects for referendum, committee reports, financial statements,
Lunch prices.
lunch prices. Okay.
Mr. Traub, in the past, we've asked for a quick biography of retirees. Would you like for that to continue?
Sure. Why not? We need something else to do next month.
One of those will be an autobiography.
We're gonna have a presentation from the biotech competition.
Okay.
And
We'll also
Mr.
be doing-
Traub, we also have our external diploma program from Ed Connections graduation in June.
Chuck?
Yeah.
I don't think it's, I'm not sure this is agenda item, is there gonna be, in lieu of the vote for the food certification certificate, or whatever that was called at the last meeting, there's a great deal of concern that this was going to, require a lot of time on the administration. Is there gonna be a district-wide approach to recording, and implementing of that program? Will all schools be doing it the same way, or is this just gonna be principal by principal?
During the summer.
Okay,
I'll
well, at some
report
point,
in the summer
yeah,
how
I'd like
we're
to see
gonna
the
roll and
district
all that.
plan that will make it as easy and efficient for administrators to implement this, so that everybody's doing it the same way. And if and when it's time to look at some of the metrics about this, we can actually have apples to apples comparisons. Well, it's obviously not for the next meeting, but I would certainly like to put it on the radar, getting this done over the summer.
We'll also be doing annual. We'll be doing annual contracts with administrators and setting our summer meetings, our next year's calendar of meetings.
Will we be getting a report from personnel about the number of teacher evaluations that were done for this year?
Yes, you will be seeing a report through personnel of evaluations for different positions across the district and how efficiently they were managed.
All non-certified contracts. Incorrect. Okay, future meetings, policy June 5th, school improvement June 5th, budget June 12th, personnel June 12th, regular Board of Ed meeting June 19th, number 1111 adjournment.
Mr.
Wait, no.
Mr. Traub, Mr. Becerra had a couple of future meetings that were not mentioned.
I'm trying to make this as quick as possible. I've got 4 minutes. The meeting for, you're gonna need a special meeting for signing the contract for the Ford roof. Once that goes out to bid, we've just went to the state with that. We're waiting for their acceptance letter. It should be this week. We're hoping for this week. We will send the bids out as quickly as possible. When we get the bids returned, then we're gonna have to award the contract. We don't wanna award that contract before your next Board of Ed meeting, because we're gonna wanna start that job before the end of June, first part of July. So I'm gonna be requesting a special meeting. I don't have the date yet because I don't have the paper in hand. So we're hoping probably a week or so before your next scheduled meeting. There may be a special meeting. Probably gonna be like that 2-meeting thing that we did there. If we can get there in with a budget policy or personnel meeting, we'll try to do that best we can. Just wanted to put you on standby. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have next Tuesday here at Torrington High School, the community conversation meeting between the police department, the mayor's office, the Board of Education, Susan B. Anthony, to discuss bullying, cyberbullying, statutory rape, and every other fun thing that's been going on in the Torrington Public School System.
No, not in the public.
Okay,
With students who attend.
linked to the Torrington Public School System. Motion for adjournment. Ellen, Dan in favor? Opposed? Johnson opposed,